Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever in the world you are. Tonight, I would like to talk about Zimbabweans' elections. On Wednesday, the people of Zimbabwe will be going to vote. This is 43 years after independence. What I find amusing about this, in many cases actually disappointing about this election, is that this is just a meaningless rat race. Absolutely, utterly meaningless. Zanu PF is rigging these elections. We know the process itself is so flawed, but the party, Zanu PF, has failed to produce a verified voters roll. It is inconceivable how you can have a meaningful election without a voters roll. And recently, we have found out that the voters roll that ZEC Election Commission made available to the candidates was actually useless. It gives the name of the voters, their address, and then the polling station they're supposed to go and vote. That voters roll was produced before ZEC announced the polling stations. So now it turns out some of the polling stations that are listed in that voters roll don't even exist. And many more have been added. And so according to somebody's analysis of that voters roll is that many people come Wednesday will find themselves going to a polling station, which in some cases they would have been advised by some of the candidates or their those helping them in the campaign, telling them where they should go and vote, only to find that where they've been directed is the wrong place. They'll turn up there and find there's no polling station there, or their name is not on the voters roll there. And the thing about it is not every, in fact, all the polling stations have only got their voters roll for that polling station and no other. So if they check and say, oh yeah, your name is not on the voters roll, they can't tell the prospective voter which polling station they should go to because they don't know. They only have their own polling station voters roll. Why the opposition failed to pick up on that beggars belief? Indeed, the law says ZEC should produce a verified voters roll at least one calendar month before nomination day. So by nomination day, we should have had the list, the voters roll, giving the names of the voter, all their details, and what polling station they should be going to. Opposition candidates submitted their nomination paper knowing fully well that that verified voters roll was not there. This has happened again and again and again. It keeps coming back to the same issue. These elections are flawed. The opposition know it, that they are flawed, but they keep on participating out of greed. And as for their supporters, they tell them, no, we can win rigged elections. We have got strategies of how to win rigged elections. And the voters are naive enough to believe it. This is the tragedy. I'd like you to listen to this song, which has been circulating on the internet, obviously posted by the opposition supporters. Let's listen to it.
Aywa maZanu Machupeti, Iwo maZanu Machupeti, Matinga mnanga kwa oda mukabe, Matinga mukabe oda mnanga kwa, Aywa maZanu Machupeti. Aywa weti digita jamuka, Isu weti digita jamuka, Karamba kutongwa toka kutungamirwa.
Well, basically, to those who do not understand Shona, what they're singing about there is Zanu PF supporters are stupid, Machupeti. They remove Mugabe and then put Mnangagwa. Machupeti, they are stupid. And we, Triple C supporters, Tajamuka, they've woken up. We are wide awake. We refuse to be led, to be governed. We want to be led. That is the message they were trying to send there. Yes, there's no doubt about it that Zanu PF has proven to be incredibly incompetent, stupid. Zimbabwe had the potential of becoming one of the richest countries in Africa. There cannot be any doubt about it. The country has got so much potential. And it have to be really stupid to turn a country with so much potential into one of the failed states. And Zimbabwe is a failed state. Millions are living in abject poverty. Basic services like education and healthcare have all but collapsed. You have to be really stupid. So they're absolutely right. And to be quite honest, somebody once said that if the elections were free, fair, and credible, and Mnangagwa was on the ballot together with the donkey would win. People are so desperate to see the back of Mnangagwa, they'll vote for the donkey. So it immediately brings to focus the desperation of the people to get rid of Mnangagwa. So the question then is, why is it that the opposition have failed to remove Mnangagwa all these years? And the answer is obvious. They failed to address that fundamental problem, stopping Zanu PF rigging the elections. So for them to be singing that Tajamuka, we are wide awake, and yet they're repeating the same thing over and over again, biggest belief. This election is a rat race. I've said it many times, and I'll say it again. This is a rat race. What we are having here is a race between Tweedledum and Tweedledee. The stupid and the insane. I don't see how anyone can say this is a meaningful race. This is a democratic election. If we want quality leaders, we have got to accept we have to have a meaningful democratic election. Free, fair, and credible, in which people can have a meaningful discussion, debate on issues, where there is a meaningful democratic competition of ideas. In the present political situation, that is not the case. Zanu PF has managed to stay in power, not because the people voted for the party, but because the party was able to rig the elections and forge the mandate of the people. I believe that if the elections on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, were free, fair, and credible, it doesn't matter who Mnangagwa is competing against, he would lose. That's how desperate people are. They have seen what has happened to the country for them with their own eyes. You can't keep telling people, oh, the economy is getting better, when they can see with their own eyes that it is not getting better. Unemployment has been 80% plus for the last 20 years plus. Mnangagwa has come up with this idea that this is a second republic. Yeah, second republic. You were in the first republic. And worse than that, he was one of the people who was involved in rigging the elections and keeping Zanu PF in power. The 2008 the elections, Zanu PF lost. And Mugabe was willing to concede defeat. And it was none other than Mnangagwa himself. And he both supported, who stepped in, stopped ZEC declaring the results. And then for the next 6 weeks, carried out a recount of 5 million votes. All he was doing is, of course, is whittling down the opposition's victory, so that in parliament they had no more than just over less than 20 seats more than Zanu PF. And for Morgan Tsvangirai, his 73% of the vote was whittled down to 47%. Just enough to force a runoff. And during the runoff, he used so much violence that Morgan Tsvangirai was forced to withdraw. And Mugabe was the Zanu PF candidate then, won with 84% of the vote. So he had turned around his 27% or so to make it 87 in the runoff. SADC stepped in. They could not pretend that this was a free and fair process. They stepped in and said, no, they will not accept Zanu PF as the government of the country, and forced Zanu PF to go into the GNU. The primary purpose of the GNU was to implement the democratic reforms so that we put an end to this culture of vote rigging and wanton violence. The opposition, the same people who are in Triple C today, they were in the GNU. They failed to implement even one meaningful reform. The biggest trick that Zanu PF pulled then was to convince the opposition that they could win elections without implementing reforms. And so for the 5 years of the GNU, they did not even make one reform proposal, not even one. And towards the end of the GNU, SADC told Changirai that you cannot go into these elections without reforms. If you do, you lose. The elections are already done. But again, MDC would not listen. These are the same people who are now saying that Jamuka, we are now wide awake. No, they're not. This is insanity personified. What we have here is not a democratic election. It's a rat race. Who is the winner out of it? It really is immaterial. It's academic. If you're going to have a rat race and have Tweedledee versus Tweedledum, who cares who the winner is? The whole process is so flawed that the only candidates you will have are Tweedledee and Tweedledum. And that's what we have. And that's what we have had all along. And that is why Zimbabwe is a failed state. We really cannot pretend that we are sorting out the problem that come Wednesday, even if the election results were to come in the opposition's favor, there will be any meaningful change there. There's not going to be any meaningful change. The candidates, the electoral process itself is so flawed that it only was able to attract the worst kind of candidates you can get. Zimbabwe's political system can be compared to a sewage pond. You can never get quality fish out of a sewage pond. If you want quality leadership, we must implement the democratic reforms. Drain the sewage pond so that we've got clean water in there. Then we can introduce fish, quality fish. They can survive and thrive. And we will have fish from there. If you continue fishing from a sewage pond, don't expect quality fish. If we continue to have these rat race elections, you will have Tweedledum versus Tweedledee, Machupeti, and the insane. Do you seriously expect there to be any meaningful change at the end of the day? The answer is no. I find it ridiculous that we have taken this long and we're still failing to define what constitutes free, fair, and credible elections. That is at the bottom line of our problem in Zimbabwe. We cannot pretend this is a free, fair, credible process. And as long as it is flawed, you will always have Tweedledee versus Tweedledum, Machupeti versus the insane. If these elections were free, fair, and credible, Mnangagwa will lose the elections to a donkey. The only reason why he will win these elections is that they are not free, fair, and credible. And the only reason why they continue to be flawed and illegal elections, illegal elections in this case, is because we have got the opposition that is insane, that is so dumb. They cannot even do the obvious thing. In fact, in terms of free, fair, and credible elections, it is common knowledge that the opposition have been arguing that they've got strategies of winning rigged elections. In other words, they've accepted that Zanu PF is going to rig the elections. And they are claiming now that they've got strategies to stop Zanu PF rigging, the elections or winning rigged election. Let Zanu PF rig and we will come up with counter strategies, which of course they've repeatedly failed. I do not see Wednesday result being any different. I think Zanu PF is rigging these elections, and Zanu PF is going to win these elections. And not because the people didn't voted for Zanu PF. It's because Zanu PF rigged the elections. Why the opposition failed to address this fundamental problem is that we have got some incredibly incompetent, corrupt and incompetent opposition. That is the bottom line. What I find also really disappointing is the number of people out there, the so-called intelligentsia, who have allowed this situation to continue all these years, 43 years after independence. They are the ones who have been actually cheering and applauding CCC, encouraging them to participate in these elections, knowing fully well that they have not implemented even one meaningful reform. Even if we accept that CCC did not know what reforms they needed to implement during the GNU, after the 2018 elections, the European Union Election Observer team produced a report in which they listed 23 reform recommendations. Chamisa and company knows that not even one meaningful reform was implemented out of that 23. Not one. And they're the ones who are totally indifferent to it. While the European Union and everybody else have been saying, implement the reforms, the opposition has been noticeably silent. The truth of the matter is, the opposition did not implement even one meaningful reform during the GNU. For the same reason, they are participating in these flawed elections now. And those reasons are greed and breathtaking incompetence. It's amazing that their supporters are saying in Tajamuka, we are wide awake, and yet they haven't even comprehended that the GNU was about reforms, much less that the opposition sold out, much less that the opposition are keeping on participating in these elections out of greed. Majamuka pakudiva. They are awake in what way? The bottom line is we have got Zimbabwe is a failed state because it's being ruled by buffoons. Like I said, the economy was so robust and the potential so enormous that when you look at it, it really speaks volumes of the sheer incompetence of Zanu PF. How did they manage to destroy a country with so much potential? Because they're corrupt and incompetent. How is it that the opposition have failed to remove Zanu PF from power when the electorate, if the elections were free, fair, and credible, they would vote for a donkey just to remove the ruling party? It's because the opposition have proven to be worse than Zanu PF. If Zanu PF are stupid, the opposition have turned out to be insane. And why have we, the ordinary Zimbabweans, tolerated a situation where we've got a rat race when we need to have elections, free, fair, and credible elections? Beggars belief. The election on Wednesday is a foregone conclusion. Machupeti are going to win these elections. It's a race between Machupeti and the insane, the stupid and the insane. Know that even if the insane were to get into power, it will make much difference. If we want quality government, we have to start with quality political system that is able to produce quality leaders. We want a system that will be able to hold free, fair, and credible elections. A truly democratic system that allows meaningful democratic discourse to take place and democratic competition for power to take place. That is what produces quality leaders. If we want quality fish, we need to drain the sewage pond. As long as we have got the sewage pond, and we have a sewage pond right now, that is why Zimbabwe is a failed state. And as long as we have got a sewage pond, there will be no quality leaders. The election on Wednesday is just another rat race. It's got clear what is the starting position, what is the end position. That's the thing about rat race. And in this case here is a competition between Tweedledee and Tweedledum. The stupid and the insane. And the stupid, by sheer luck that they are in government, have got the age. And they will win these elections again. And we will be faced with another prospect of another 5 years of this failed state. That is the reality. I don't know what these guys are talking about. They are wide awake. No, they're not. They wish they are, but that is just wishful thinking. So to conclude, I'll just play that short clip again.
Ayuwa maZanu Machupeti, Ilo maZanu Machupeti, Mazinga mnanga kwa oda mukabe. Wasinga mukage otamenga kwa aiwa maZanu Machupeti aiwa vechidikita jamuka isu